Evening, we'll call to order the regular meeting of West Valley City Council. We note that we have all council members participating. 6 council members here, 1 through electronic communication, Don Christensen, which is allowed under our rules, and he will participate. And we will need to make sure on our votes that he is included in that. When we do a voice vote, if you will indicate, and in case I can't hear, because he's over there, you know, what his voice is. And then also, if he would like to speak, if you hear that and I don't, please alert us, and we'll give him that opportunity to participate. Okay. With that then, and I think that works. Or if you have a better way, I'm open. Okay. We'll do our opening ceremony. We turn to Councilmember Karen Lang.
Would you please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Special recognitions, and usually we don't have young people, and I better be careful how I say that, or scouts in our audience, unless they are scouts, I guess. Trying to figure out that. Is this a scout group here? Okay. We would ask one of you young men to come up and introduce your is this Cub Scouts? Your pack number, what you're here for, like you're doing some sort of a belt loop or I don't know what, and then just generally the schools in your area. That's all, and I'll help you along with it. We don't need you to introduce everybody.
Come here. Come on.
Now this is tough, especially for Cub Scouts.
So we are Cub Scouts, mostly Webelos. We are the Pack 3296 from Chesterfield, Utah, from West Valley City. And we have several here, and most of us, actually, all of us go to the Redwood Elementary School.
And you're here tonight working on?
Our citizenship.
Citizenship. Great. Thank you.
Mayor, this is one of the finest Cub Scout in our city, and that's support. And this happened to be in Chesterfield.
All right. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Okay, with that then, we'll go to our minutes of September 11th, the motion on the minutes from the council.
I move to approve our minutes from September 11th.
Second. Properly before us, any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of approving our minutes from September 11th, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Aye. Was unanimous. I actually heard him, so. Okay. Next we go to our comment period. By the way, I guess I should state, it's not often that we have the electronic portion, so we're not well versed in it. I think I've done it once, and now Councilmember Christensen's done it once, so we're still kind of new at it, so we'll adjust as needed. Our comment period. Let's see. We have a couple of people here to speak tonight. We just mentioned to you that this is not a discussion or debate time. It's your time to state your issue, your comments. We will listen, and it's not a question and answer, and it's just directed to the mayor because we don't want it to get personal. That's just the way it works. And so up to 5 minutes. And with that, then, we have 2 people signed up. We'll begin with Joe George. Yeah. Oh, let's see. We do have, let me just mention, if you're here to speak on the, let's see, Arcadia property home liens at 3764 South, 6400 West. We'll do that separately.
I don't even know where that is.
Oh, okay. Then, go ahead.
Good evening. I was here about a month and a half ago. This is about off of 5400 West. We have a playground in Highbury East. I don't know if you remember when I spoke about it. You have two streets, Stockport Way, then there's a roundabout, goes over Darlington Drive that goes over into single homes over there. And it's your street. And we have a playground that sits in between, in it, enormous. And we've had a lot of close calls there because the people speed at your street. I've been upstairs 3-4 times, and they said it's a 25-mile-an-hour law. But I know where I come from, wherever there's a playground, it's 10, 15 miles an hour, and each entrance, children, playground, slow. And this is all we're asking. That the city could drop the speed limit in there to 10 to 15, put a sign, or give us the street, because like I told you, you don't plow it anyway. We pay for the plowing. And there's that roundabout is on your street, and it's been, I forgot what it just cost us to fix it, but it's on your street. And this is all we're asking, you know, otherwise I won't bother you anymore. Because like the guy said, I said to him, somebody going to get killed, one of the kids? And he says, yeah. I said, that's a hell of a way to say something, to get us signs, because it's a playground where kids are going back and forth. And we can't do nothing about it because it's your street. And all we're asking is something very easy. 10 to 15 with a sign coming from the single homes and off of 54 West. Children playground, please. Go slow. That's all we're asking. That isn't hard. So I hope you take it into consideration, because I won't bother you anymore. Just won't pay my taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Mike Markham.
2 minutes.
Okay, Mike Markham, 3008 Alice Way. Sitting through the study session today, I really like that subdivision that's going in up on 27. The thing I like about it, they're all 2-car garages. I don't think anything should be allowed to be built in the city with a 1-car garage. Townhouses, whatever, it should all be 2-car garages. If you have a 1-car garage and it counts as 2 parking spots, the garage becomes storage, because nobody's going to go out in the morning in the snow and juggle all those cars around. While I was sitting in there, I could probably park 12 cars in my driveway and side yard, but nobody's going to want to juggle cars around, so it's going to be the back 2 that's going to get used all the time. So when you're thinking about some of these, and parking to me is a huge issue in this city because it always seems to grow. Everybody ends up with more than 1 car. They get 2 cars, 3 cars. Some cases they may have 6 cars, unfortunately, or they may have 12 cars and 6 of them are on the street. So, you know, parking is a big issue. So I think if I was ever sitting up there, I would not vote for a development that had 1-car garages. Everything has to have a minimum of 2-car garages. Another question I have is, in the study meeting they were talking about a piece of property that you're talking about selling. It's a little oddball shaped piece of property, but it's full of tires, buried tires. Who buried the tires? Make them come and clean it up. It shouldn't be our responsibility. If it's England Trucking that was there that buried all their tires, get their heinies over there to dig that up. That's garbage. That's improper dumping. You know, if you drive down to the dump, you take the back road sometimes around the boat. People drive down there, load a boat full of garbage, and then just unhook the boat and drive away. Or they take an old ratty trailer and unhook the trailer and drive away. You know, go after them. Let's get after the people that's burying these tires. You know, tires, they're not going to go away if they bury them. Somebody's got to have to be responsible for them sooner or later. You know, or a giant fine. You know, money counts, money talks. So anyway, just wanted to say that the thing that's going up here on 27, I like that with the 2-car garages. I used to ride in there when it was a gravel pit. Used to ride a motorcycle in there. So I look forward to seeing a nice development in there with higher end homes. So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak tonight? Seeing none? Okay. We'll then continue on with that. Mr. Pyle, any comments from you tonight?
No, sir. Thank you.
And then city council comments. Anyone on the council? So you're aware, we take these items, and that's what I was doing, was making notes so I would be sure and remember. And those that we feel, because we can't have a lot of discussion on something that's not on our agenda. That's state law, and that's to protect the public. So what we do is make notes, and then we follow up in our next meeting, put it on an agenda in our study meeting so that we can discuss it more fully. So the two items are, of course, the speed limits around playgrounds, which I think is an interesting topic that we might want to just discuss a little bit or get a little bit of information on, and what our options are there. Just so you're aware, speeding is a problem in many areas of the city, in essentially every subdivision. Mr. Markham's comments, do we already have a requirement on two-car garages?
Yes.
Okay. And the buried tire problem, I hadn't thought about that from that perspective, and so maybe we'll just add it next week, just get a clarifying comment on land use. And
I could clarify that one for you right now, Mayor. There was no indication, and there was really no need for the purpose of when the land was originally acquired for the purposes of the road. And we did not know that those, and there was no record of it, any kind of contamination in the soil. And by the time we discovered that, it was far past ownership of anybody. We, in short, were unable to discover who was responsible for burying it, and that could have been many, many past decades. So we're not able to find who put the tires there.
okay, well, we may not do that one. I don't know, maybe we'll talk some more about that. I don't know. But anyway, the one for sure on there for next week. Okay. Then with that, we conclude our comment period. We now go to public hearings. We have an application Z-10 2018 filed by Arcadia Property Holdings, a zone change from A to agricultural to residential estate for property at 3764 South, 6400 West. In that process, in introducing this, we will cover Ordinance 18-34, showing the zone change, and Resolution 18-168 for amendment to the development agreement for that same location. This particular project has been going on for a while. There were several different landowners there. This piece is added into what is currently being developed, and also modifying it for a few changes as far as setbacks, and there was something else. What was the other change? I know it was...
The homes on 6400 West could have smaller frontage.
Yeah, that frontage, that was it. Thank you. I was trying to remember from last week. I've been on vacation all week, and unfortunately I did not think anything about city council meeting. No, wait a minute, that was fortunately I didn't. I needed the vacation. So that issue, and this is now to move forward with the zoning change to match what else has been done on the adjacent pieces of property, and as well to modify that development agreement to be able to make these changes. So that is the issue before us. With that introduction, then we will open public input on this request. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Seeing none. Okay, Then we'll close the public input portion and we'll bring it back to the council for motions and or further comments. To the council.
Mayor, concerning ordinance 18-34, I would move for approval.
Second.
Properly before us. Any further comments? Seeing no further discussion from the council, we'll turn to our city recorder for the roll call vote for the whole council.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
Councilman Christensen?
Yes.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilman Hune?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
Councilman Fitty Samanu? And Mayor Bigelow?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Now to the council. Vicky?
Move for approval of resolution 18168.
Second. Properly before us. Any further comments or discussion? Seeing none, again to our city recorder for the roll call vote.
Councilman Fitty Samanu? Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilman Hune?
Aye.
Councilman Christensen?
Yes.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next we go to ordinances. We have ordinance 18-35 to amend or add a section in our code regarding city council voting procedures. There was a little bit of confusion regarding when a motion failed, if that motion was considered, for example, if a change would occur and the motion was made to approve that change and it failed, did that mean it was disapproved? And so we modified or proposing a change that if a vote is taken when there is not a full quorum present and it fails because of a lack of majority, meaning that, for example, there's only 3 votes maybe in favor of it, so therefore it doesn't pass, that does not constitute disapproval. It merely means that that motion didn't pass. And what we would do is, in that case, wait until it was added to a subsequent meeting in order to see if that would change the outcome. Obviously, if a motion passes or if a denial occurs and there are 4 votes, the issue is moot. It is when we do not have a full quorum and it could be different, the outcome. That's basically it. You have the language before you. To the council then.
I'd just like to make a comment and clarify at least my perspective on the proposal, is that this is not just that some proposal doesn't pass, but if we make a motion to deny and it receives 4 votes, that would dispose of the issue. The question is when we don't have enough votes to approve or deny because of not having all members of the council here.
So of staff, could I just ask, so this procedure is in all of our other commissions and boards?
It comes from the suggestion for this language. It's not exact, but comes from similar language that's included in the Planning Commission right now and the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
And as I was thinking about the other entities that have that, I don't really think there's any others that would necessarily apply. Those two seem to be the main ones that have similar issue.
Okay, thank you.
I move for approval of ordinance 18-35.
Second.
Properly before us, any further comments? Okay, with that, to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
Councilman Christensen?
Yes.
Councilman Hune?
Aye.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
Councilman Fitty Samanu?
Aye.
And Mayor Bigelow?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. If I can get my recount. There we go. Okay, next is Resolution 18-169. This is approve our CityWorks license maintenance agreement for software use. We've been using this particular program for many years, but the renewal of the maintenance contract requires us to sign a new software agreement. We rely heavily upon this, and many departments depend on it for our work. This will continue that. The $70,000 renewal fee is part of our budget and is similar to what we've paid in the past, as I recall. So that is the issue before us, to the council.
I move forward for approval, Resolution 18-169.
Properly before us, any further discussion? Seeing none, to our city recorder.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilman Hune.
Aye.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Nordfeld.
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next, we go to Resolution 18-170. This is to authorize the city to enter an agreement with the University of Utah Neuropsychiatric Institute for the full-time services of a mental health professional. This individual would assist our police department and working with those who have issues with mental illness, who may be involved in illegal activities. Simply arresting a person with mental health issues and incarcerating them does not always solve the problem, nor is it necessarily the right issue. And certainly leaving it to a police officer to make judgment calls on issues related to mental health is of concern. So having a licensed social worker able to do that will be beneficial. This individual also assists in issues relating to homelessness, and I think those were the two main areas, so that we don't unnecessarily incarcerate or hospitalize persons with mental illness. They will assist in finding the right resources, the right solution to that. Now, have I covered that basically, Mr. Pyle, or do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that covers it well. Thanks, Sam.
Now, this will take, I know there was, it's already in our budget, but I believe the total cost on that program, and by the way, this will not be an employee of the city. This will be a contract person who will work with the city full-time, but under the direction, or actually under the, as an employee of still the University of Utah.
Correct.
Okay. But I think it was a, quite the number, 117 was the cost of that contract. With that then, to the council.
Mayor, move for approval of Resolution 18-170.
Second.
Properly before us. Any further comments? Seeing none, to our city recorder.
Councilman Nordfeld.
Yes.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Hune.
Aye.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
And Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next is Resolution 18-171. This is to agree to an amendment to the Metropolitan Narcotics Task Force Interlocal Agreement. Murray City, who has been the repository or the key city to coordinate that and the funding, the finances, no longer wants to do that. The person in their city who was doing it I understand, retired. They asked another city to take that on. Salt Lake City has agreed to do that, to manage the funds. And so this interlocal agreement's being amended to do that. Plus we added, there was another city added to that, I believe.
Salt Lake, did you mention them? Or Salt Lake was going to be taking over the
They were going to take over that,
duties?
but wasn't there another city who was joining that group, or, well, maybe not. With that then.
It does mention in the issue paper, Mayor, that there are other agencies that may be joining them, but it doesn't list them.
Oh, okay. It was just that there may be others. Okay, with that then, to the council.
I would move for approval of Resolution 18-171.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. And any further discussion? Seeing none, then to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilman Hune.
Aye.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Nordfeld.
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next is Resolution 18-172. This is an amendment to our agreement with ACE. I guess officially ACE Disposal, although it's also recycling, for the Residential Solid Waste Collection, Disposal, and Curbside Recycling Service Agreement. So, there are a couple of changes. One, the city entered into this agreement, and costs are significantly changing on recycling, and so processing recycling material is increased from $25 per ton to near $55 per ton since we signed this agreement. In discussions with them, although we do have a signed contract, in order to facilitate long-term continuation of this program, if the businesses in it do this service and are losing significant amounts of funds, it's going to be awfully hard in the future to get anyone to bid. We've already had a number of companies decide not to bid on the contract for the city already. And so, but ACE did and received that contract. We feel it is in the best interests of the city to allow some increases. And so the first thing is that since the recycling material cost has increased significantly, we opted to say that the city could raise that fee up to as high as $60 per ton or less, depending on the circumstances, but would not have to come back to us for further approval for costs exceeding $25 per ton. And so that is in place. If it goes higher, they have to come back to the council. This would take recycling costs up to $2.87 per unit per month from $2.31. And I'm going to have to get some help here, and that was why we were up here visiting for a few minutes before we started. There was some confusion about what exactly is in the contract. And so, with the council's indulgence, because what I thought was in here is not exactly the same. And we want to make sure that as council members vote, because this has had some disagreement between, as we've discussed it, as to the right course to pursue, not on the $60, but on the next piece, which is if we approve this contract. Let me see if I state it, and if not, I need to have Mr. Pyle or his staff, or even maybe ACE to come up and clarify this. In this contract, if we were to vote yes and approve it, it would increase to $60, but it would also put in place that those who are currently recycling could opt out and as a result, we would have to adjust fees. Am I saying that correctly?
I believe so, yes. So the two specific contract amendment changes are these. The one is on the second page of 3. In fact, they're both on the second page. And it would change the biweekly automated residential recyclable collection monthly unit price to $285 per residential unit. That's what we're paying ACE per unit. Okay, and then the second is the one that's more understandable, which I think we're all clear on, which is we would be charging up to $60 per ton for processing of the recyclable costs, also to ACE. I believe, if I understood the question correctly, that the confusion is centering around the opt-out provision and therefore the revenue or the chargeback side wherein the city would recover its costs, right? And that is completely up to us. These contract amendments don't affect that. All these have to do with is the prices that ACE is charging us and that we would be responsible to paying to them. But on the fee schedule side, which, as you know, anytime we change the fee schedule, which is an ordinance adoption or modification amendment, has everything to do with from building permits to licensing fees, all that sort of thing. The opt-in or opt-out structure alternative under which the council would direct us to take would affect how we recover the cost from ACE through this contract. So, for example, if the council didn't make any changes to or adopt a fee schedule change later on after tonight, we simply would be bearing the cost, which we could do, by the way. We would be bearing the cost of whatever the differential was in the recyclables processing cost over time, without recovering any of that change from the residential customers. Now, we could do that, but by our calculations, what will happen is that will eat into our fund balance for a period of time until frankly it just became untenable to do that at any point. Then we would have to come back and ask for a fee change.
Mr. Pyle, was that the 180,000?
Yes.
Approximately.
Approximately. Could be more, could be less, and over time it would change as well, but that's the number point in time that we were looking at.
Is 180,000 per year or?
Per year. So I think part of the confusion may be arising from the fact that we don't recover revenues by this contract. All this is us committing to the cost we're going to be paying to ACE for their services for collecting. What we do after that, in terms of adopting a fee schedule to recover, bears directly to the question that you all are asking about from the should we incentivize recycling, not incentivize recycling, does it even incentivize recycling, well, how does that affect the contamination of the waste stream, all of those questions.
Okay, so to clarify, in this particular contract, because I tried to ask that in the study meeting, and it seemed like, depending on how I asked the question, I got two different answers, although I thought I was asking it the same way. And that is, if we were to vote in favor of this contract, that would increase the amount that we are going to reimburse ACE.
Yes.
It does it in any way make a decision as to whether we allow our residents to opt out of the recycling cost?
There's no language in this contract that I understand or look or read that says that we're changing that in any way.
Okay.
So let's ask Russ
Yes.
to confirm that. And in fact, the other suggestion I would make, Mayor, is in order to helpfully clarify, and certainly has more expertise in this area than I do, have him come on up and let's explain the whole thing over or answer any other questions.
Mr. Willardson, you may as well come up to the front here and
that's correct. This, what you're voting on tonight, only changes the amount that we pay to ACE for the services that we receive from them. It doesn't change anything on the fee schedule at all. The only clarification I would make is that there If there is no intent of the council to allow residents to opt out, then there's no need to change the fee from 231, or the cost that we were paying ACE from 231 to 285, because we don't expect anyone to opt out if there's no discount, if there's no reduced fee for them to do so.
So the way I heard that was that the increase in that fee, 231 to 285, is for the purpose of offsetting the cost of people opting out.
That's correct.
By virtue of adopting that, we would just be paying more money to them for something that's not happening. The issue is the increase in the cost was due to the fact that there would be, they still have all their employees, they're still going around to every street, because the opt-outs don't do it all in the same area. It's one here, one there. They still have to do the same amount of, essentially almost the same amount of work, and with fewer people covering that cost. Or, did I say that right?
With less revenue coming in because
With
people have opted out.
Yes.
That's correct.
So perhaps we need to make sure that if we vote, it would seem that if you are opposed to people opting out, or if that won't pass, you would vote no. Is that?
Well, Mayor, I have-
Correct, or, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Could we not approve the contract with the price for recycled containers to be set at 231 to 285, depending on our fee schedule that we'll be reviewing in the future? That keeps it at 231 if we don't opt out in the future, and at 285 if we do.
I probably shouldn't speak to that, because what that implies to me is a question for ACE, who's the party to the other side of the contract, who I don't want to speak to that, but it doesn't seem like that would work for them.
Well,
Can I
Yes.
address that issue? So I spoke with the general manager, and there are representatives from ACE here, so we can ask them that question as well. But I spoke to him about that option, depending on how many people opt in or opt out, and he was amenable to something like that. And we said we would just leave it the way it is, because that's what was presented to you last week, and we didn't want to confuse things any more than they already are. But I think that is something that we could work out with them.
you know, with the way the contract is written, it doesn't seem to make sense to me to say, let's approve the increase when we haven't actually decided if we're going to allow residents to opt out. I think it would be wise to decide that question and then modify the contract to reflect the decision of the council, whatever that is. That seems to make more sense. Does that, to anyone else?
Well, to me, if you vote for the contract, you're voting for the opt-out alternative. And if you vote against the contract, then you're voting against the opt-out. And it would be denied, and they would bring it back at the $1.31, because the council has said we don't want the opt-out.
But why bring it back again to make the change? Shouldn't we?
Well, there needs to be a way to, obviously we did not instruct staff, or there wasn't a vote taken, because we can't do that in study session, it's almost like we have the cart before the horse. Are we going to change the fee schedule? And if so, then we alter the contract with ACE, but we have it backwards. So tonight we're deciding if we okay it, we're voting for opt-out, and if we deny it, we're not, and they'll still have to bring it back to us at the 231.
Should we have them bring back the fee increase next week so that we can vote on the two of them together?
If we continue this tonight, that would probably...
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very convoluted. I mean, this language is basically it's not meant what we want. to vote yes or no tonight. Yeah, because if we vote yes, we have a problem with the opt-out. And that's because you cover for $2.31 up to $2.85 to cover that $480,000 per year. But it's very convoluted. I think it's may have to be clear in this one.
It's only convoluted because it's separated, I believe.
Right.
I believe by putting the two issues together, then it would make sense. And then we could simply, if we vote no on the fee increase, we would simply strike the change to the 285 and leave it at 231. And then that would keep things the same. If we agree to increase the fee to offset the cost of those opting out, then that would stay there.
Let me ask a question.
Okay.
Depending on the opt-in or opt-out or whether we allow that or not, does that only change as far as ACE's contract is concerned? Would that only change the 285 or the 231? Doesn't change anything else?
Other than the processing fee that everyone seemed to agree on.
Well, right, but that would be there regardless of whether we're at 231 or 285.
Right.
So if we looked at them together and had the fee schedule next week and voted on the fee schedule first, then we could just move to approve the contract at 285 or at 231, depending on what the fee schedule vote was.
Yes.
Well, and let me take it even one step further. In this meeting, we can make motions and adopt them. So would it be wise for us to actually take a vote on the opt-in, opt-out? Could we do that based on our agenda?
There's no question such as that before you, but if I think I might be able to shed a little, at least maybe
Well, but the
further.
contract is, and since we're raising the fee, we don't want to raise the fee, and so maybe we could rephrase that and say that if you're in favor of the opt-out portion, then,
You vote for tonight's contract.
yeah. And if you're opposed to it, vote no, we'll bring it back next week with a
Or vote to continue.
Now that would work,
So Mayor,
because it didn't pass. Yeah, so,
can
okay,
I ask one question?
certainly.
So
You
if
can ask
we
two.
have a motion to approve it as it is written now, and a majority, 4 people vote for the contract, then basically those 4 people have said, we want the opt-out portion, and when they bring back the fee schedule, they'll vote the same way, and that fee schedule will pass as well. And then we're not having all these different issues. You just make up your mind right now, yes or no.
I think you can assume that, but we might end up where we've agreed to pay 285 and then we don't change the fee schedule because
I'm
it's
pretty
not
sure
that
ACE,
long.
pretty sure they would come back and change it if we totally,
Now, the interesting thing on this is now, based upon some previous action we've taken, if the motion is made to approve and that motion fails,
then they can,
then the issue is still before us
right.
because we've not voted to deny it. And so we would then make a motion to continue and modify the contract next week. That would work.
Sounds to me, Mayor, like you got about 3 options here that you can logistically move this through the process with, whatever your pleasure is.
Well, why don't we do this? Doesn't someone make a motion and let's try the one to approve what is on our agenda. And we'll go from there. Or excuse me, to approve Resolution 18-172.
I'll move to approve Resolution 18-172.
I will second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Let's see what happens. Let's go to our city recorder for the roll call vote.
Councilman Norfelt,
No.
Councilman Christensen,
No.
Councilman Hune,
No.
Councilman Bueller,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu?
No.
Mayor Bigelow?
Aye. Motion failed.
Motion fails.
So the motion to approve it did not pass. So what do you want to do now?
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this item until next week and instruct the staff to bring some options involving a change in the fee schedule.
Second.
I was going to, if I could add that we review the fee schedule before we review this motion again. So that we have that set and not have the letter we have tonight. Could we amend the motion?
Yes.
You want a second? Second again.
All right. Then, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of continuing this to, it was next week? Or did you say? Was that
Next week.
And having a information on the fee schedule as well. Okay? All in, well, let's see, to the city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang?
No.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilman Hume?
Aye.
Councilman Christensen?
Yes.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow?
Aye.
Motion passes by majority for continuance.
Okay, next on our agenda, we go to our consent agenda. There are 3 resolutions, Resolution 18-173, 18-174, 18-175. These are located to accept a warranty deed. In the first case, a grant of temporary construction, easement, and an irrevocable trust for the second one, and then the third one is a right-of-way and warranty deed and temporary construction easement. Those are located around 4100 South. We have been doing these almost every week, a few of them. We've done a lot of them. These are fairly routine, and so we put them on our consent calendar. That's the introduction to them, and with that, to the council.
Mayor, I move for approval of the 3 items on the consent agenda.
Second. Properly before us, seeing no further discussion, to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
Councilman Christensen? Councilman Hume?
Aye.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu? And Mayor Bigelow?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That concludes our regular scheduled items. We do have another special short meeting after this for the West Valley City Redevelopment Agency that will immediately follow. But if you need to leave, that's okay as well. With that, for our regular city council meeting, I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes unanimously. Regular city council meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. We call to order the Special Redevelopment Agency meeting. Note that we've had an opening ceremony and that all of the members are present here and one is joining us electronically. Are you going to stay with us, Councilmember?
I am staying with you.
All right. We have one resolution, and Mr. Powell, will you introduce this, please?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, so we are asking for approval of an access agreement between West Valley City or the redevelopment agency and Rocky Mountain Power, who we have a representative with us here tonight. We appreciate her presence, to allow us to install vinyl wraps on power utility boxes around the city. The intent of this is for us to market and sort of beautify aesthetically some of the boxes that we have around the Fairborn Station area.
Thank you. To the agency, any questions or a motion?
Do you have a question? Is this limited to Fairborn Station?
I don't believe it is limited to Fairborn Station. Is that your understanding?
The agreement is not limited to Fairborn
Okay,
Station.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I apologize for asking.
If we're going to
Do you want me to come
have a
up?
response, we would invite you, if the council is okay, to have certain amount of,
Let me,
we need it.
I don't think
on a-
we even need that. I think we're great. She confirmed for me, I'll clarify for you. So there is no limitation geographically to where the wraps would be placed. Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, sorry.
Thank you.
That was a point of order, not the chair speaking. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or motions?
I would move for approval of resolution 18-05.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, we'll turn to our secretary for the vote.
Mr. Kitiswanu?
Aye.
Ms. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Bueller?
Aye.
Mr. Hune?
Aye.
Mr. Bigelow?
Aye.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
And Chairman Norfelt?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have no further business. One more motion. Motion to adjourn. Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We're adjourned.